Wait, do you ever get disappointed when you're showing someone something for the first time and you really want them to get it? And
No,
they
not
don't?
at all. I think
Yes.
Oh.
Matt knew exactly where I was
Absolutely.
going with that question.
I'm clearly an Eeyore.
I'm probably Rue.
I'm a Christopher Robin with a poo rising.
And then I get in a canoe and I'm like, Claire's don't like canoes.
No, they don't.
I'm afraid of this lake.
That's exactly what it was.
Ow.
It was a beautiful moment in our friendship. I was
literally in the middle of getting hers up and down the
Pathetic.
stairs. Ow. I was like, I'm trying to get my hair done. I'm like, God.
I don't think that's an accurate representation of my owl.
Well, you were in such pain you couldn't see clearly. So,
Trauma.
Thank you for listening to the Last Will podcast. I'm Matt Young. I'm a theater educator and a parent. And ever since I lost my father to cancer, I have been mildly obsessed with death. This is my last will and testament. Isadora James once said, "A sister is a gift to the heart, a friend to the spirit." We have another special episode. This one's about sisters. We have a special guest, and it's Juliana Kenny. Yes, Claire's sister is here. We are going to get the whole Kenny family on every episode if we can do it. Hope you enjoy.
But now we're rolling, so.
Oh, okay.
Now it's a
we
little
are?
different.
Um,
I'm looking at the lines. Lines are good. We're remote today,
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
We are remote. I'm not going to tell you where we are.
Modern podcast.
no, we can't talk about that.
No.
But I heard
welcome
it-
to the Last Will podcast. Usually we have some preamble, but because we're remote, we're going to go a little different today, huh? We have a special guest, Claire.
Yeah. Oh, do you know her name?
Juliana.
Oh, okay. Good. I wasn't sure if I do ahead of time.
I think I knew from before, but
You call me
Juliana
Magnolia.
is
What?
Claire's sister.
Yeah.
So, older or younger?
Older.
Yeah, because you and I are the babies, aren't we? Yeah, we're the babies. We act like the babies. Come on.
Baby podcast.
Well, I was wondering if it would be possible to tell us apart because of our voices.
Oh.
I think that's going to be an interesting test for the audience.
Right?
But we talk differently.
Do we?
I guess we'll find out.
I'm hearing noises.
Yeah, there could be noises out there.
I think my
Happens.
voice is raspier than yours.
My voice feels really raspy today.
Oh, great.
Yeah, just because last night was there's I don't know why you would think I was screaming a lot last night, but I wasn't. I was just like laughing a lot.
That'll do it.
And
Laughing could take a toll on your voice.
maybe.
I don't think you guys sound that much alike, to be honest.
Oh,
Okay.
Maybe it's because I'm very used to Claire's voice.
Mm.
And maybe from the outside it would sound a little different, but there's definitely a different tone to it,
Oh, okay.
you know? And obviously we'll see sense of humor. Who has a drier sense of humor?
Oh, yeah. Well,
I feel like you do. I
Yeah,
feel like
Juliana does.
I have like a dark sense of humor sometimes.
Yeah, her sense of humor is like mine is a little bit more obvious and like
You would appreciate a pun.
yeah.
Oh, we both would. Yeah.
All right, this is over. I'm getting out of here.
Matt hates puns.
I don't hate them. I think they're exclusive. I think you have to have a certain amount of intelligence and wit, and so they alienate some people.
Maybe you've only heard bad puns. Good puns should be
Maybe.
inclusive.
Maybe that's true, and I find myself making some, and I'm just never proud. I always carry a little shame around me when I make a pun, especially when I'm teaching. It's the worst.
Yeah, but doesn't everybody appreciate it?
No,
Oh.
I teach middle schoolers. They do
They don't
not
appreciate anything.
They don't appreciate a good pun? I loved puns
No.
when I was a kid.
and sometimes they don't get my dryness either.
Oh.
But I am considered a cool teacher, so who knows? They probably
nice.
do, yeah. And I don't have to wear a leather jacket to prove it. I just walk around.
It's all in the attitude.
Yeah, exactly. And will I get them in trouble for doing stupid stuff? No.
No.
So today today was a big week for me. And Claire, because I drew Claire into it. I had a big decision to make about work. Should I
Oh.
even talk about this? Yeah, because I didn't leave my job, you know.
No.
But decisions were really, really tough, and I really didn't know how to make them.
Oh. Yeah.
Claire came at me with the pros and cons, and I made the pros and cons, and I felt like the pros and cons they were really even.
Yeah.
You know?
Wait, one didn't have more weight than the other? That's the whole point.
I know it didn't.
Oh.
I looked at it and it always felt like it could go either way. And I did go either way so many times. I was staying, I was going, I was staying, I was going. In the end, I think I made the right decision for now, but really would have been interesting. And I think we have it in our future, a episode about decisions, you know. But because we're lucky enough to have Juliana here, we are going to do an episode on sisters and sisterhood, because that makes sense.
Sisters.
Yeah.
Sisters.
Both Claire and I had older sisters. As you know from listening to this podcast, you know that I don't have an older sister now, or at least I do in my head. She's still there, for sure. Were you? My sister very much wanted to be my mother. And she was only 16 months older than me, but always wanted to be my mother. Did you have any of that instinct when you were growing up?
Supposedly.
Should we be asking Claire instead?
No,
Well,
it's her.
No, I mean, people have told me that I did.
Okay.
So I don't remember deciding that that's how I was going to act.
Right.
It just seemed like I was automatically protective, automatically, I guess maybe protective is probably the best word.
Yes.
Like our mom has mentioned over the years instances where it seemed natural for me to just take care of her or safeguard her in some way, and it wasn't. And as a very young person too, we're 2 years 7 months apart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
2 years 7 months. That's. So you were in high school together,
Yeah. Yes.
You know.
Like she was a freshman when I was a senior.
right?
Yeah.
I think my sister had gone by the time, and we were only 16 months apart. But she was an October birthday, and she was the youngest in her class. You know, when you have that choice. Like my youngest son is November, but we didn't. Holding him back sounds like, you know, he skipped, or like holding back sounds like we held him back, but we didn't. We just made sure that he started off as the oldest, because I feel like kids thrive. My sister was the youngest, and my high school didn't have 9, 10, 11, and 12 until I got there. So I came in at 10th grade. I never did a freshman year in high school because it was still in our middle school for.
Oh, ninth grade was in middle school?
Yeah. It was 7th, 8th, and 9th in middle school, which kind of was
So
killer.
she wasn't in. You guys were never in school together.
I don't think so.
But 16 months isn't.
Maybe 1 year, but I don't think so. I think she was out by the time I got there.
But 16 months is like a year and a half.
I know.
Sense.
I know.
It just mattered when they entered school together. I mean,
Especially because
separately.
if I entered as a freshman, we definitely would have. But because I entered as a sophomore, there was something missing. I don't think. I'm trying to think of who the oldest people were in my freshman class, and I don't think she was a part of that. I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, Juliana and I also went to the same college.
Yeah.
We also went to the same
Summer camp, that usually happens, yes.
Yeah.
But college, a little strange.
Well, yeah, the school
Strange is
thing.
the wrong word. I didn't mean to sound judgmental.
When I was a senior in high school and Claire was a freshman in high school, I don't really remember anything about us interact. I mean, it was a huge school and we didn't really interact until we were both in the musical together. And that was fun. But college is what I really remember being there for when Claire became a freshman, because I was a senior. And by that time, like, I'm 21. I feel like a bazillion years older than somebody who's 17.
Yeah.
And I introduced her to all my friends. And
It was very nice of you.
Well,
Yeah, it was great. Okay.
You could have kept them to yourself. You could have.
but I remember a lot more about being at UConn together than being in high school together.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, being in high school is like, you're not really a formed human, but I always felt this like attachment to her as like somebody was like following in her footsteps, and which was nice for me, because I also kind of felt like as a younger sibling, I just always feel like there's somebody to default to. and maybe somebody to blame
Right.
if something goes wrong, or which doesn't sound great. But
Which apparently you did, but I don't remember that either.
You didn't catch any of the flack for it.
I mean, I did, but it doesn't like hold any weight in my memory.
I don't,
nice.
I don't think I did it too often. Actually, there was a lot less blame than there was admiration, and also like, oh, you're Juliana's sister. Like, I mean, I was like accepted into every club
Right.
because I was Juliana's sister.
Did you express your admiration, or did you keep it in?
I don't know.
I think
I
you did.
didn't.
And then did you feel it? Did you feel like she admired you?
I think so, but I wouldn't have called it admiration at the time. I think.
Right.
By the way, all this makes me sound like I was very cool. Like I was not that cool.
Well,
She was really
let's
cool.
just say
She was.
that in earlier podcasts, your sister has told the world that you played the coolest of all instruments, which was the saxophone.
Oh, I did.
So they
I
do
did do
think
that.
you're cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Whether,
yeah.
I
whether you
mean-
want it or not, it's out there.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny is that when you play the saxophone when you're in middle school and high school band, you are not cool
No,
at
no.
all. You are like one of the most uncool members of the band, but the saxophone itself is one of the coolest instruments, and adults who play it
Yep.
are super cool. So
And-
what's that about?
Well, it doesn't make any sense, but I do think you get the cachet of having played it now that you're an adult.
Yes.
Because when people look back, they go, "Oh, that was a cool instrument," but they don't remember. They don't remember how.
It's really tough. The high school,
is.
every experience in high school is so tough. Like I mean, I thought being in band was really cool. I mean, I didn't want to do it because it looked like it was too much hard work.
Yeah.
Because I saw my sister do it, and it was like really intense in our high school.
Yeah, that was too much.
And then I
Marching
saw
band
her.
too?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to do it. There was like no choice. Like I knew like as soon as I got to high school that I wanted to do the musicals, and no one could stop me from that. And that was my life's dream at
Right.
the time. And so if being in the band meant that I couldn't do the musical, then I would do band.
That's exactly what I did as well. Started in band, wanted to do the musicals, and then couldn't do. So I wanted to be in jazz band, which was in the spring, and the musicals were
Even
also in the
cooler.
spring. Because jazz band was fun and cool and way less work than marching band.
Right, because you could just riff.
Yeah, so you weren't allowed to be in jazz band if you weren't in the marching band. So I was like, well, screw all this.
What?
I'm giving up the sax to be in the musicals.
Yep.
What?
So cool.
You know, tangent. What was your first musical?
In high school, freshman year was Once Upon a Mattress.
Oh,
And I did have like 4 lines, which
Nice.
was actually very cool for a freshman to have 4 lines.
my first one was Mame. Oh, yes, and our friend Nancy Meyer didn't direct it. She left to adopt a child, and so we had this other guy direct it. And he used to, I may have said this before, he used to take all his notes on a little recorder, and then he would keep us after rehearsal playing the recorder in his ear and then giving the notes. And I just remember my father just losing his mind going, how are we supposed to pick them up at this time? And it's 45 minutes later than that time. He's like, just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't think I had any lines, but I had like 4 different characters in it, and I made huge relationships, and really felt like part of a family. It was a huge thing. My first musical was in 2nd grade. We did Babes in Toyland,
Oh, fun.
and I played Tommy Tucker, and that's the only reason I know that name, Tommy Tucker. He sang for his supper,
Oh,
eating his curds and whey. I don't know how that ends.
that sounds right.
Claire, what was your first musical?
Well, my first musical in high school was Oklahoma. But if we talk about like the children's theater I did like lots of children's theater before then.
Yeah,
which
me
were-
too.
Which were all musicals, yeah. But I guess my first official
Those were
musical-
all original musicals, or
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I also like in 3rd grade, we put on a play called The Nightingale, and I was the Nightingale, and I had to make up music for it, and I just did it. Like I just made up little songs as the Nightingale. So
Amazing.
maybe that was my first musical.
Nice.
Well, what about Crystal Theater? Because my first musical of my life was Cinderella in Crystal Theater, and I was a mouse, and we did the Rockettes. Like
as the mice?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Steal the show.
Yeah.
Oh no, my first musical was Lil Abner.
Oh wow.
I'm sorry, Lil.
Lil
Abner.
Abner. Very fond memories of that show. It's such a ridiculous musical, but the songs are really catchy, and it was a fun experience.
Was that in Norwalk? Or?
It was at Crystal Theater, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they did, like, you know, outside of the originals, but then this was like one of their. They decided to do like a play that wasn't written by them, but yeah, no. I definitely learned a lot about theater etiquette when I got to high school, and it was again like the most important thing to me in my life at the time to be on that stage in that particular high school doing these shows.
Well, the shows were epic. They were so well produced, put together, like run, cast, everything about them.
What was the first one that you guys did together?
That was Oklahoma.
Yeah. Juliana was the lead. I was the most proud person in the world.
Proud farmer on the
Yes.
plains of Oklahoma.
Yep. And
Who did you play? Who's
I was Lori.
considered the meat? Lori.
yeah.
Lori.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I was just so happy to be
Anytime Annie is not. That's 42nd Street.
Annie wait,
Oakley. No, that's Annie.
No, her name is who's Lori's friend? What's her name?
Ado Annie.
Ado. Yeah, it is Annie. Okay,
We
Ado
knew it was
Annie.
Annie. We didn't know her.
Yeah,
her
You didn't know her
Ado
first
suffix.
name, which is Ado.
Yeah.
Actually, what does that mean?
I don't think Ado is her first name. I think Annie is her first name, and Ado is.
That is a weird name.
Ado mean?
Nobody knows. Nobody's ever asked.
No, someone could be screaming at their podcast player.
Yeah, someone knows.
I know what Ado means. I don't have a clue. I don't know what it is.
So we did that together, and then Juliana went to college, and then
So you were abandoned by your sister
Mm-hmm.
for higher education. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
left me to die in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and then
And then Claire had to do Les Mis twice.
no, I didn't do it twice. I did it once.
Oh.
Felt like 4 years though. Yeah, we did.
So
Les Mis.
the musical the next year was Les Mis,
Les
which is no offense to Oklahoma, a bigger undertaking.
Oh God,
For
times
sure.
a
Oh,
million.
humongous.
Yeah.
Times a million.
Like I didn't know the show at all before doing it, and everybody was really excited, and I obviously was like, I'm auditioning for all of the leads, and didn't get cast. I was cast in the show, but then they had us, they cast me as the understudies, which basically meant like if
Do all the work, but you get none of the.
But then I did get the opportunity to do like one school performance, which the only thing I remember about that in this moment is the dress that they had me wear, which was white that they dyed blue. So I wore
Cosette.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wore a dyed blue dress for that performance, which is like
They dyed it blue.
they dyed it blue.
Did your skin turn blue?
No,
And you were Cosette,
mm-hmm.
older Cosette or baby Cosette?
older Cosette, but I was really small.
You can see an Eponine, can't you?
I mean technically I was understudying all of them just in case, but
Which is a wild move on the part of a director.
But
Yeah.
but they were like,
Mrs. Pettibone
but then
was-
I think because I was probably one of the only people that could sing the super high notes at the time and
Okay.
fairly okay.
Yeah.
I think Pettibone probably knew you could do it, and that's why.
Yeah.
So interesting. So
Yeah.
you separately got into. Because I'm thinking now, I was like, is there anything that my sister and I were into because the other one was into it? And I guess you could say marijuana was the thing. I mean, you could say that. My sister was really into marijuana. And eventually I was my senior year in high school. And she used to, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but she used to, we would call her. She went to college for like a year and then it just wasn't for her. And so she came back home. So my friends and I would go on our lunch break. We'd go out to this Vietnamese trailer and get a steak, egg, and cheese from this woman named Thon.
Yum.
And then we would go across the street to a payphone, call my sister and say, hey, can you call us into the second half of school and then leave us a bowl in the garage? And she used to do it. And we used to sit there and wait by the phone for her to call us back to say that it worked. Yeah, she had a nice deep voice.
Wow.
You know, she could always get away with being an adult.
That is such a good deal. You've got your steak cheese thing.
Yep.
You've
And
got,
we put egg on it too. Yep.
and now you don't have to go back to school.
Nope. And then we would get really high, and then we pull all the curtains and watch The Secret of Nim. And and it'd be pitch black, and then we fall asleep. My friend Dave and I, And my parents would walk in the den. It was like pitch black. They're like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? What are you guys doing?" Oh no, we just fell asleep watching this movie.
Could they tell you were high?
I think this is what I believed at the time. We're the fucking coolest. No one knows. No one.
How
knows.
old were you when this was happening?
I was a senior, so I was
Okay.
probably 17,
Okay.
18. But they knew. They had to know. Because when I went to study my junior year of college, I went to England to study. Before, my father, he took me aside and he said, look, it's fine to smoke whatever you want around here, do whatever you guys want around here, but you're going to another country, so don't do that stuff there. And I'm like, all right, Dad.
He knew.
And then I went a week early to stay with the family, and they had an 18-year-old there, and he sold pot. So that's how we got our pot the whole time.
Wow.
while
Well,
we
yeah,
were
it's
there.
super safe.
It was just given to us on silver platter. So yeah, they knew. They absolutely knew.
Yeah.
And we just thought we were cool enough, but we weren't.
No, you never are
No.
at that age.
So I'm trying to think outside of that. Is there anything that my sister influenced me?
How about music?
I don't think so. She was always partial to the disco 80s, and that just never.
The Marvelous Wonderettes?
No, that's 70s. That's even 60s. That's 60s and 50s. We used to do that on our own. We used to listen to oldies on our own. We just loved that, and I loved classic rock because of my mom. But I mean, I probably, if you played me Go-Go's tunes, I would probably know a lot more lyrics than I thought I did, just based upon hearing that Duran Duran. So no,
Okay,
I wouldn't say music. We both love Star Wars, but we both came at it at different times. So yeah, I don't know if there's any like direct influence.
Did your parents influence her and then transitively influence you too? Like, because like I'm just thinking things about like things that are influenced me in my life, music, certain stories, and all that also came from my parents, not necessarily my sister, but her love of it also influenced mine.
Right, so we are into the same things because our parents were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it worked that way for me. It's very weird. My father's taste in music was awful. It really was. He just liked Elvis. That was like he liked what people of his
Garbage.
age was supposed to like without like any exploration. My mom was a little bit better. You know, obviously my mom introduced us to the Beatles and classic rock and stuff like that. Mary Martin singing Peter Pan. Musicals. They did always go to the theater though. They always went to the theater. But my initiation into theater was in kindergarten when we were doing a play, Are You My Mother? Because my elementary school, every grade did a play, and so we did a version of Are You My Mother? And I've said this story before, but I remember learning lines with my mom in the kitchen going, this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like literally, I was 5 or 6, and I was like, this makes, I get this. You say the thing, I repeat it, I remember it.
Yep.
This makes sense to me. So I always had that. But they definitely nurtured it by going to a lot of theater. But I don't know that there's any real direct.
Your sister didn't do theater?
No, she did one play. And it was a play that I had done in high school, which was so inappropriate. But we all like went out and supported her and just like championed her doing it because it was the first time that she ever did it. And my father and my sister were big personalities. They were definitely extroverts. And so I think I get a little bit of that from them. I'm not an extrovert, but I get it on the stage from them. But no, she never did plays. My father was a car salesman, so he was always doing a little bit of performing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but yeah, no direct. I don't think any direct influence.
What did your sister do for work?
She worked for my father. She worked at the dealership for my father. She did customer service. She was really good. And towards the end of her life, she was a real estate agent. Boo! No, not that. She was a travel agent.
Oh, cool.
And she had a gift for that. She really had a gift for that. I wish she had gotten into that earlier, because she was really, really good at that.
Nice.
We took a trip, my eldest son and I, to Disney this year, and it would have been a trip that she planned easily.
Yeah.
And it was a friend of hers who helped plan it, who knew her from that world. So it was kind of nice to live vicariously through her. But that was really the thing. That was her calling, for sure.
I mean, I'm sure there are influences that are latent, you know, if you were 16 months apart. that just are like a part of your psyche, or
Yeah, I think we both had a fear of sharks.
oh,
Yeah. I think that was something we shared, but I blame my father for that.
that's a good fear to have.
Yeah. Well, not in a pool.
Oh,
I think every time I can't go into a pool without having the thought and then having to tell myself there's no sharks in here.
like we're talking like you can see the water. It's like this is a man-made situation. There's no sharks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I will have a passing thought of okay. No, it's clear. It's clear.
So you don't go to the Maritime Aquarium.
I haven't. I did work there for a
They
little
got
bit.
mad sharks.
You worked.
They did. I did. I never told you that.
So you existed in a facility where there were also sharks.
Why did you put yourself in that environment?
I needed a job, and I refused to work for real. So I dressed up like a big beaver. I'm sure you guys must remember when the IMAX theater had the beavers.
I actually don't remember being
Really?
at the IMAX, but
Yeah.
I remember somebody dressed up as a shark at the Maritime Aquarium
One
and
time-
being extremely frightened.
Our main job was to dress up like beaver, but we had a seal and a shark costume. It could be any of those. And for a summer, I dressed up as whatever character they wanted me to dress as.
okay. So I guess you didn't have to interact with the shark area.
No, and
as
you know
the
what?
beaver.
I don't mind sharks. Like I don't really mind seeing them in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't bother me. But open water, yeah, a little scared.
Well,
and then
yeah, at the aquarium, they're contained. And you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
see them, and you know that they're there, and there's a huge protective wall in between you guys.
This is very interesting because I was terrified of the sharks in the container at the aquarium for most of my childhood. Like, could not even get past
Wow.
the creepy lights in the
Oh,
hallway
yeah,
to get.
I totally remember
utterly
this.
terrified. I would freeze, and somebody would have to close my eyes with put a blindfold over me in order to get me through that part of the aquarium.
Wow,
But I will swim out onto the open ocean and just be like, "Take me, I don't care."
I will never understand that. I don't think I'll ever be able to wrap my head around that.
I have like a bizarre confidence on the open ocean.
So when
Oh,
you're
so it's
out-
not like I don't care. It's just like it's not going to happen. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not
also
in
that,
danger.
yeah, I'm like, I'm not. A shark is not coming for me.
Well, okay, you could be 100% wrong about that.
I know it's hubris.
No, but like percentage-wise, it's not. That's what they say. It's you're more likely to get like struck by lightning than you are to be eaten by a shark.
Except
Not
that
even eaten,
in
but
the
bitten by a shark.
in
Right.
this area where we
I'm
live,
making that up. I don't know for sure.
there are a lot of sharks in the northern New England, and there are more reports of shark attacks every summer than I've ever heard about.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, no lightning.
Yeah,
I
mean,
should probably develop a little bit more fear.
But you don't live in a shark-infested area.
There were sharks in San Diego when I lived, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't like swim out onto the open ocean in Blaine, Washington, because it's too cold.
Well, now you just told everyone where you live.
Oh, whoops.
Oh, cut that out. I think the last time I swam in the ocean, I was in San Diego, and it was many, 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 many years ago.
It's a delight.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I am also a super afraid of sharks, but like in this kind of the same way that Juliana was, where at the aquarium, like the weird lights that you go walk through this hallway, you know you're about to see the sharks, and then you see that it would like probably hugest fear ever when I was a kid, and now I'm afraid of like being in the open ocean with the possibility of sharks, but I also have a very irrational fear of being in like a lake. Oh no, this isn't about sharks.
Is about Loch Ness Monsters?
No.
Gators. Alligators.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we grew up going to summer camp in Maine, and my first summer there,
Maine and Florida, known for their alligators. Right?
I was just very convinced. I just made it up. I made up an irrational fear, and nobody could talk me out of it. I was like, there are alligators and crocodiles in this lake.
It's the unknown. You can't see into the water. You don't know what's in the water. Could have been piranha too. You never know.
So Claire had fears about things that were never going to happen. Like, Claire was afraid of storms we don't get here.
Like
Tornadoes. Remember? You were...
I remember making up a
earthquakes.
song about it.
I mean, we're talking she was young,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
no way to discern that there
Earthquakes,
was never gonna
tornadoes,
happen.
volcanoes, and bats.
And bats?
Yeah, that was earthquakes, tornadoes, volcanoes, and bats. That was like the song I made up.
Earthquakes, tornadoes.
For all of her fears.
What was it? Earthquakes, tornadoes,
Volcanoes and
volcanoes. Yeah,
Right.
it's. I don't know. When I was young, there was like a big. There was only like 3 stations. We didn't have cable. Wasn't what it was when I was young. And Mount St. Helen erupted, and so that was the big fear. Like a volcano could get anybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have scary dreams about them. I would, like, if you would show me a picture of a volcano with lava, I was terrified. But, like, my dreams were extremely, like, visceral about these scary things. But
Tell us the one about the bats.
I don't know where the bats one came from. But I think that there were a couple of evenings in this house where I would wake up and, like, I'd hear our parents downstairs, and there's, like, a man in the house and I'm, like, looking, I'm like, what's going on? And our parents are like, there's a bat in the house. And this
Oh, I don't remember
like,
this.
trying to help catch
He's the bat
He's
man.
the bat man.
Bat catcher.
He's the bat catcher. But, like, having a bat in the house was, like, a big bad deal. So it seemed like a scary thing.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Well, so the crocodile alligator thing tracks with the like unrealistic fears.
I guess I just was a little older at the time, and it was like, I was alone in this fear. Like, I think maybe I like mentioned it to a couple of my other camp friends, and they were like, yeah, definitely not. And then Juliana was at camp with me, and it was a religious camp, and she said to me, there's nothing in this lake other than God's love. And I was like, wow, that's like really nice.
Well played.
Yeah.
Well played.
And it still didn't help a lot
Oh.
because I was like,
that's such an insult to God.
I mean,
He's like, I literally fill this lake with love. What?
Yeah, and you think there's gators?
which, could also
sorry,
be
crocs,
God's
whatever.
creatures too. But I just couldn't, like this week, Matt, I spiraled about something, remember?
Yeah, I do.
And
I remember well.
took a thought, like I hadn't heard from a friend in like a couple days, somebody who I always hear from. And I just went immediately to the worst case scenario, that this person was dead somewhere. And I couldn't get it out of my head. Like, spiraling when you're 12 is one thing, but spiraling when you're like 35 is like, come on, Claire, you're at work. Like, do your job.
Get it together.
But it was kind of like that feeling where I couldn't stop thinking about the possibility, and nobody could convince me otherwise.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
even the idea of God's love. I was like, that's not strong enough. God's love doesn't have teeth. Alligators do.
Right. But so you're in a fight or flight mode if you're that anxious and worked up about something. It's not going to work. Like, you can't just convince yourself of the positive possibility when your entire body is trying to keep you alive because it feels like something is attacking it.
I don't know if it was my body, though. It was definitely just my mind.
Yeah, they're the same thing.
But and we can, how do I want to put this? We know 98.999% that you didn't really have a fear of crocodiles, but that it was something else. And what was creating that need to manifest itself into this?
Of the lake, and that I was
Lakes are dark. It's weird.
scary, and I was forced to go out into the water. Like, I had no choice. Like,
Then that probably that isn't that true? Like, you're not given a choice.
Yes.
You're being forced, and so
That's right.
the idea of choice being taken away from you.
yeah, and then in swim class, they're like, okay, in order to pass this level, you have to go like do a deep dive to the bottom of the lake and bring up dirt to prove that you went down there.
Right.
And I was like, not doing that.
To bring this
I
back
don't want to be a
to
bluefish. Do they have like cool names for the different ranks of swimming?
No.
Oh,
we
kid,
should
when
have.
I was a little
it's like
kid, they
level
was
4.
Yeah, you were I don't know, a goldfish, a trout,
We
a
should have
minnow.
Names. But to bring this back to the sister thing, I just thought of something. I got wrist slapped a bunch for trying to get Claire to be unafraid of stuff. Like,
Okay.
we were on the beach in Cape Cod, and I would, like, as I've now explained, hubris level with the ocean. So I was just like, throw myself in there. And we're talking like there are red tides, like aggressive waves and stuff. And Claire had a healthy fear of things like that for a small child. And I remember like trying to drag her into the ocean with me and be like, look, it's totally fine. It's actually really fun. And she had to wear water shoes. She was like afraid of stepping on crabs out there. And I was like, that's ridiculous. And Mom was like, do not do this. You cannot force her to come into the ocean with you. You were like crying. I was like physically dragging you through the waves.
It sounds like you should have gotten a wrist slap for that.
Yeah, I know, definitely. It was warranted. But like that's one example of me having tried to be like, you don't have to be afraid of something. Look, I'll show you. And like nobody should have been forcing you to go into the ocean.
Which is ironic because I do remember being absolutely forced into the water by our parents. Like I don't remember exactly why, but I feel like I might have been like a little Sandy when we were trying to leave the water one day, the ocean, and they were like, "You're getting into the water.
You're not getting sand in the car.
Yeah, and I was like,
We'll force you into the water for this.
yeah, and so they like, actually forced me into the water, like,
Yeah.
dipped me in, and I was terrified. I don't know why I was so afraid of the ocean. Probably because of how scary it was.
The waves were big on the Atlantic side.
But I think this has to like.
And there's monsters in the ocean.
right.
And
Sharks.
I have a vision of a monster in the ocean, and this particular moment where.
There are ones that we don't even know. There's no way that we know every species that is
Definitely
in the
not.
water. There's no way.
Definitely not.
But so Juliana, I think it's like remarkable being an older sibling because you're doing uncharted territory. Like everything you do, you're doing for the first time. You're subject to your parents being a parents for the first time. They're experimenting with you. By the time the second kid comes around, there's a lot of like experience, and also you have an older sibling to look up to. So I think I had fears at the time that were just unique to me. And, watching Juliana be unafraid of going into the water and not being afraid of the crabs, which I now remember, I didn't understand how she wasn't afraid of that. So, like, maybe as a person who came first into the world,
I was the first person in the world.
you were the first person in my world.
It's Adam and Juliana. That was the old story that we know.
I don't know. I don't know if it's like, where did those fears come from? It obviously didn't come from like, you weren't afraid of anything. So maybe like I felt like I had to be afraid of something because it's like, well, if she's not thinking about the crabs, they're definitely there. I mean, it was, the crab thing was like definitely scary.
That was for real.
Yeah.
With you. Yeah.
Like I'd step on a shell and I'd be like, I stepped on a crab.
That happened all the time.
I'm dying. I'm dying here.
Yeah, it did happen a lot.
It's interesting just to go back a little bit. You were really like trying to give her an experience that you thought was full of fun and excitement, and yet the only way that you could try to deliver that was through aggression.
Yes.
And there's something really interesting about. Obviously, we don't always have the tools to do things maturely, but my sister was like that too. A lot of the time, it was as my second mother, it was aggressive ways of either keeping me in line or trying to introduce me to something that maybe I didn't know. I don't know that I have a point outside of that, but I just thought that's interesting. You're thinking about somebody's well-being, and yet we're creating a bit of terror in them.
Definitely.
Or at least making them tense.
Well, and it's not their job to like it's not their job or responsibility to be in charge of like how you see the world. Like it's no one else's. I mean, your parents are there to help you, but also
no, you're absolutely right. But like our friends, our siblings, we all do that. We all want to shape everybody's.
Yeah.
Like I always want to tell you, these are good plays, and you should do these plays, and this is the acting that you should do. And I'm always trying to push you into.
Well, and there's healthy coercion, and then there's not healthy coercion.
Right.
There is healthy coercion?
Well, there's and I guess I've always felt myself to be like super influenced.
Yeah.
By my older sister. Like I mean, Juliana, she's here. Hello. I also did have a desire to follow in her footsteps, as far as like doing most of the same things. I think like the musical and the all the creative arts stuff like that was very innate. So I didn't feel like I wasn't doing anything that was not a part of me. But when it came to like academics, I wasn't like as book smart or super. I didn't accelerate in school like the way she did, but I wanted all the same awards. So like I wanted the high level level classes. I wanted the same teachers. Because I wanted to be known, I think, and felt like comfortable in that same space where like, oh, well, I'm Juliana's younger sister, so of course I'm going to take this hard.
Do you think you saw her get praise and rewards for it, and you were craving those things as well?
Oh, undoubtedly. I mean, our parents definitely were very like full of praise for my academic achievements.
They were.
Push Claire to the side and go, wait.
Well, I mean, it was like I remember receiving praise for like having gotten really good grades forever.
Yeah.
They stopped doing that because it would probably got tiring for them. But it was
We're
something.
going to celebrate this A again?
Yeah, exactly. But it was something that I did receive that I'm sure you saw.
I guess I don't remember it as much. I don't think it bothered me in a sense that, like, you know, I look at Juliana's academic successes and be like, oh, like, I just assumed that I was going to be the same, I think. But I wasn't. And I think I struggled with that. But then in my own little, like, a different way, just because then I had my own, like, peers in school. And then the peers in those high-level classes, like, weren't. I felt like on a different level. I probably would have learned a lot more if I were in the still good classes, but like level, like
not trying to chase the dragon.
Exactly.
I had that and in the opposite way. So we lived in Fairfield. We moved to Greenwich. My sister immediately got into trouble with the wrong kids. Like, was always in trouble in some way. And so I just became the good kid, you know, but all the attention was going to her. So I just had to retreat and just make sure that I was following the rules. I was never a great student, but I was always, I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. I didn't get in with bad kids who were getting kicked out of school.
Yeah.
I played sports. I did drama. For the most part, I just kept my head down and didn't cause any problems.
I mean, I do think that there's probably if there's more than one child in a family, there's some element of that in every family. Like the younger sibling sees the mistakes that the older sibling makes with parents and, gets into trouble, and then they do the opposite. Like Claire watched me really battle with my parents over things and then was like, I'm not going to repeat that behavior.
Yeah.
So, that's...
Which creates its own set of other issues,
problems.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you're, like, trying to be a cookie cutter, but, like, no one can be a cookie cutter.
You just want to avoid what you've seen that person go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, like, I think I'm looking for attention. Definitely in that. Like, give me attention because I'm following the rules.
Right.
As opposed to the loud one who's getting attention, the negative attention, by, just falling in with the wrong crowd. She eventually righted her ship and figured out she did really well with working with kids with special needs, and she found a mentor and then straightened her ship out. But my whole life, even until I lost my father, we were playing opposites. My sister was very loud and give me attention, and so I got quieter. She was, giving bad behavior, so I did good. I always did the opposite. I'm always trying to balance out whatever that is. And in my grief, I really hurt myself that way because she didn't have a problem going, I need this. I'm grieving here and I need this. And I'm like, I don't need anything. I'll just bear it all on by myself, and I'll be quiet. And
Do you think that
it hurt? I mean, it made it made me still struggle up until when she died. And then when she died, it all came crashing down on me again. Yeah, there has to be a healthier balance.
Well, also, it seems like, if you're looking up to somebody and they're grieving in a certain way, you kind of, like, you want to grieve together, right? And it sounds like she was, a little bit, I don't know. It just seems like whatever she was doing, you were the opposite. So I wonder, like, what would have been better for you dealing with the grief of your father.
And what really would have been better for me is if I said, look, you can grieve your way. That's good for you. I have to grieve my way. Instead of letting how she grieves, me caring about how she grieves. Not that I didn't care about her and how she felt, but like, why did I have to think there was a right and wrong way and that she was doing the wrong way, and so I'm trying to do the right way when there is no right or wrong way. to do it. I shouldn't have cared as much about what she was doing, and I should have just been open with what I needed, and I just couldn't. And I couldn't show any vulnerability around my mom or my sister. And that really
that's hard.
Devastated me for a long time.
And you didn't know it was happening while it was happening, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I had ideas that I was withholding what I was feeling, but I didn't, not until I got into therapy did I start to realize all of the shit that I had been fucking up for so long.
Yeah.
But yeah, vulnerability in front of my sister, because I didn't, it was tough after my father died, because we were all kind of living in the same space, and she would bring guys into that space, and it felt like an invasion of this place of grief, but she was doing what she needed to do in order to deal with his death,
Right.
So I shouldn't have cared. I really should. I should have been like, you have your thing. I'll just find my own space if I don't want to be around this. But I couldn't. I got resentment, and I would pull back, and it created distance between us, and it was silly. Very, very silly.
But I feel like at the time, whatever you were going through felt right. In hindsight is where we tend to feel like, oh, well, I should have done this,
Well, yes, absolutely. But I also think I should have let some of that escape me. Like, if I was angry, be angry, but I wasn't. Can't be angry.
Right.
I'm a big guy. I can't be angry. People won't handle my anger. Push it down.
But
I'm
you
really
were
sad.
angry.
I can't be
Yeah,
vulnerable.
but you were.
But it was quiet, and
Yeah.
it was inside.
Yeah.
It was a tempest inside me, as
Oh.
opposed to letting that tempest out, which would be healthy. It would be healthy to let all of that out in a safe way, but I just couldn't do it.
I mean, it's a hard ask in a moment like that, in a time like that, without the tools to really know which way to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of why we started the podcast, was put all these mistakes out there, so that if people are dealing with that they know that they're not alone, and that there are other ways to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But since we're talking about sisters, I had to talk about my direct relation with that.
Yeah.
For sure. Because it was hard. We were very, very different. But,
And then there's brother and sister,
Yep.
because I would think that in a world where, there's grief, but there's also if she has a partner, then you're constantly thinking about being protective or XYZ. When you in my relationship with my sister, her introduction, or there's an introduction of a boyfriend in the situation, it's never it's just a little different when it's girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always, my biggest, on that note, my biggest thing was I wanted her to value herself. And I felt and this is my problem, and you've heard it many times, Claire. You're probably sick of it. You'll vomit when I say it. I wanted her to know her value. And so I never wanted her to settle for someone, to love someone just because they loved her back. And I always felt like she wasn't doing that.
Yep.
She was just taking the love.
Some of us struggle with that still.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. It's oh, I'm attracted to this person because they like me.
Yeah.
Earthquakes,
Absolutely.
volcanoes, and bats.
Earthquakes, tornadoes, volcanoes, bats, and self-love.
Doesn't fit into the musical sense of it, but
I have to write a new song.
yeah,
Yeah, you do.
You rewrite it
For a modern
Rewrite it.
version.
Yeah, it's it's interesting stuff, brothers and sisters. I think she always wanted my approval, and I think I knew that. And when I didn't approve, I withheld it, and that's not very nice or fair. And she always judged me in a way for not being simpler. For wanting to how do I even put it, intellectually pursuing things. I'm certainly not the smartest, but I have a curiosity, and she resented my curiosity, I think.
Oh,
Interesting.
Yeah.
maybe she admired your intelligence and felt a little not up to snuff in that way, and that's why she resented that.
I think you're probably right. I think you're probably right. As opposed to just being who she was.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think I ever made her feel bad for it, but I don't know. I don't know. You know, there was definitely a I don't know. This is a lot more than I thought it would be. This conversation. I feel like I'm just hitting on all the negatives because they're like easier to recall, but there were a lot of like positives, in our relationship, and unfortunately, since she's been gone, those pop up a lot. You know, on silly things, like the most not the most recent, but one I can think of like off the bat is there's a new show on you're gonna hate this, Claire, on Apple Plus. It's a
Claire
it's a
hates
streaming
Apple.
service. I keep trying to get her to do it, but she just refuses. On the streaming service, Apple Plus, there's a show called Time Bandits, and it's based upon an old Terry Gilliam movie that we grew up with. And no one would understand my excitement for that, for them making a show out of that movie more than she would have.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's like these little moments all over that you're like, oh, I wish you could see this.
Yeah.
I wish I could share this with you because we had common ground here. And,
I don't think that's unfortunate.
no, because obviously it connects me, but it also, when I recall so much negativity so quickly, like I have today, that's when it makes me sad that
Right.
there are all these beautiful moments that I that only she would understand. That,
But I don't think that's negative.
Also, it's natural to remember the negative. We're like wired to remember negative things to protect ourselves against them. Like humans in general, the negative will stick out over the positive in any situation.
But oftentimes when people pass, though, we color code it the other way.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll talk about the sainthood for people who
That's
have passed, and we know, like my father gets sainthood a lot of the time, but he had his flaws,
Right.
For sure. I also want to try to remember them honestly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for my sake.
Well, we could start the podcast over and
Yeah. Let's just do it again
and and just kind of do it differently.
Well, we have gone just about an hour.
Juliana and I can shit talk each other, and then you could just talk about
Oh, that'd be great.
how great
Yeah.
your sister is.
I'm just gonna leave and let you guys just go at it. No, but this has been really, really interesting. I don't think this is done. Unfortunately, Matthew has a hard out today because he's got a parent.
Well, we do know that we can pod remotely. I mean,
Yes, we
even more
can.
remotely.
Yes. So even when you're not on the coast, we can pull you in,
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
or when you're on the other, wherever
That's
you
true.
are.
Yeah, wherever you
your
live.
mystery
Wherever I
location
am.
of life.
Yeah.
Out with the
Oh.
crocodiles and alligators.
Yeah,
But
she
this
me.
was a lot of fun. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I think we could have probably talked for 2 hours.
Yeah, probably.
Easily.
No one wants to listen to any of this shit anymore.
Actually, I just saw something recently about how very long podcasts are very successful, like 3 to 9 hour podcasts.
Yeah, that is a thing. We could definitely pull that off, Matt.
I thought we were talking about going shorter, like trying to keep it to an hour.
Yeah.
I think you have to have a guest like Elon Musk to warrant a 9 hour
Okay,
podcast.
well-
Yeah, someone who's either cuckoo bananas or someone who's
You
really,
know, like
really interesting.
I'm
Michelle
cuckoo
Obama.
bananas. All right. Well, maybe we could do
When
like
we get Michelle Obama, we are absolutely going 9 hours. There's no doubt.
She doesn't have anything else to do for 9 hours anyway on that day.
That's
so
true. God, who cares? People know how we lean on this podcast. When she came out to the Democratic National Convention and held everybody the way that she did, the power of an individual who's not in politics is rare. It's rare. It's maybe Oprah can do that, but she did. She's never been in politics.
I love her.
You know, it was unbelievable how good she was. Unbelievable. And he said it afterwards too. He's like, I'm the only fool who would follow Michelle Obama. You know. Anyways, hey, vote November. There we go.
Hey.
There we go.
I think this will come out before that.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Let's hope. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're
This was
welcome.
a lot of.
Could you tell who was talking?
I don't think you guys sound that much alike, to be perfectly honest.
How about the way we look?
Well, when you make that face, no.
Claire's making like a
No.
turtleneck face.
No, but I can see
Sis.
your parents in you guys.
Hmm.
For sure. For sure. Usually we end a certain way. And so
With
a
a song? Sisters. Sisters.
They were never such devoted sisters.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
We're not ending the other way.
No. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was Juliana and Claire and Matt having a discussion about sisters. And I definitely got a little sad while that was going on. I felt like I wasn't paying tribute to my sister enough. I think that often happens when someone passes. You never feel like it's enough. You're never feeling like you're honoring them enough. And because they're not here, they need to be... we need to shine a light on them and stuff like that. So, yeah, I was definitely sad and feeling guilty, I guess, while that discussion was happening. Or at least not while the discussion was happening. I was very happy to chat with Claire and Juliana. But I think my tribute to my sister wasn't good enough. So maybe there'll be another time where I can make amends. Anyway, thank you for listening to the Last Will podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and subscribe. We can be found at thelastwillpodcast.com, The Last Will Podcast on Instagram. And as always, onward, forward,